the destination of healing isn't relationships. It's not someone else. And the safest place for your emotional well-being is never somebody else. And I think she exudes this brilliant kind of self-confidence. Would you agree, Emma?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's wonderful to just listen to her and look at her and watch her and see how accomplished she is. And she's really impressive.
Bit
What?
creepy, but yeah.
Well,
And look at
I
her.
know, but
Yeah.
you know what
You've
I'm
got
like?
to stop looking at people.
I can't stop looking at them. I love them.
A bit of housekeeping before we begin Where You Left Them, the Dad Hugs podcast. Harry and Emma are not therapists, and your needs will be specific to your circumstances. The opinions expressed in this podcast should not be construed as formal advice. Some stories have been amended and simplified for narrative flow, and names have been changed to protect the anonymity of our contributors.
Go on in.
I wait for it every time. Hello, this is Where You Left Them, the Dad Hugs for Your Soul podcast, where we share real people's real stories. And now we interview people now and then too. So we have guests on. And this week we are very, very lucky to have the wonderful and really silken voiced, I think it's fair to say, Emma.
Lovely. Yeah.
Lucy Megesson of Thrive Solo podcast, an author, a very grown-up, responsible and impressive human being who we've just brought on to have a lovely conversation. And I'm Harry. You might have seen me all over your socials. I tend to pop up whether you want me to or not. And this is my amazing, wonderful friend, Emma.
Hello. Yes, I'm his amazing, wonderful friend.
Did you see that? That was me being really good. Yeah.
I
carry
love
on.
that. I know I will suffer for that offline, but we are where we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm his amazing, wonderful friend, and I'm sort of like the ongoing guinea pig work in progress person. I'm the one that takes all the advice.
And co-host, Emma. Don't
And
do
co-host.
yourself down.
Of course, and co-host, absolutely. Very excited for today. Lucy, as you say, has a very beautiful voice. I've got lots of questions I want to ask her. She's also got a really good website with lots of resources. Go and follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll make sure those are all in the podcast notes for you. And there we are. They're being pointed out by my glamorous assistant right now.
Links there. Right then, shall we go ahead? Shall we start?
Let's go ahead.
Let's get
Here's
her on.
Lucy. So Emma, this week we have a treat. You might have noticed I was featured, because I'm now very famous and fabulous, on the incredible Lucy Megesson's podcast, Thrive Solo, recently. And the dizzy heights of my newfound celebrity, well deserved, obviously, have led me to meet the wonderful Lucy online. And I've brought her along to meet you as well. So
I'm
Emma,
very happy about this. Hello,
meet Lucy.
Well,
hello,
howdy.
Lucy. How lovely to meet you.
Hello, Emma. How lovely to meet you too. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I have to be honest and tell you at this point, I've not listened to your interview with Harry because he bangs on about himself all the time, and I've had quite enough of it. So
I think it's
I'll
outrageous
listen
that
to
you
it.
haven't listened to it. No, I'm only kidding. I don't. That doesn't bother me in the least. I'm sure at some point he'll probably make you listen to it, won't he?
I will listen to it. I'll do it in chunks.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Please don't worry. Don't worry. But actually, well, do you know what? I have to say, it was a really good conversation, wasn't it, Hazza?
I think it. Oh, Hazza, I like that.
I know, Hazza.
My
Where
old
did
friends
that
used
come
to call
from?
me Hazza up north. Yeah, I think it was. It was surprising to me, actually, to be honest, the direction the conversation went, because it ended up quite a lot in attachment style and
Yeah.
childhood wounds, core wounds, all that stuff. And
Themselves.
it felt, incels. They're everywhere. And it felt very open and nice. And it was a nice conversation because a lot of my time is spent talking to people who are in the healing process or in the breakup process and are struggling.
I've given up on that.
And yeah, I think it's nice though, because we had a conversation from kind of external to that position, which felt insightful for me, because you were very open about, your relationship with your dad and that stuff. And that sort of led us into me banging on, as Emma likes to say, about my own stuff. And yeah, I found it really interesting. So thank you for being so open. Really appreciated it.
You're so welcome. I genuinely really, really enjoyed our conversation. And, I've had a podcast for 4 years and I've had many fabulous conversations. But of course, like anything, some are better than others. And I really, really enjoyed ours. It left. I mean, I enjoy them all, but obviously there are degrees, aren't there?
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it was a fabulous conversation, and I think I'll no doubt get some. I'm sure there'll be some good feedback about it. I bloody hope so.
Mm.
Anyway.
Yeah, you will. You will. I'm gonna. Sorry. Go
Go
on,
on.
Emma.
I was gonna just step in here and say, I think can we, introduce our listeners, Lucy, to the sort of the core of your your ethos and your podcast? 'Cause I think it's really
Yeah.
important and really interesting that people hear this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Emma. So yeah, so my podcast is called Thrive Solo. It actually used to be called Spinsterhood Reimagined up until just
Right.
over a year ago. Um, but yeah, the sort of my core message really is to say to single women, and some not so single women potentially who might be, coming to the end of a relationship.
Mm,
So the core message is essentially to say happiness really is an inside job. And if you are waiting around for a relationship to fill the hole that you are feeling inside, you are looking in the wrong place, because internal happiness and filling that hole can never be filled by another person. It has to be filled by you.
mm,
And also what I really want women to understand is that being single actually not only gets to be really awesome because there are so many underrated benefits and advantages and fabulous freedoms and all the rest of it, but one of the best things about being single, in my opinion, is that it gives us the opportunity to really lean into, what do I want from my life? I think so often in relationships, and I have done this myself more than once, we lose ourselves to the relationship and suddenly our dreams essentially
Mm.
go out the freaking window
yeah.
because we're like focused. Or if you're anything like me, I become laser focused on the relationship. It becomes the most important thing in my life, and I forget about my dream of doing whatever it is. And I think that's part of why I find that I'm a much better version of myself as a single woman, because there is no distraction for me following my path in life. And actually, I think what is so interesting is that I have found, and this is as a 50-year-old woman, by the way, who's had many, many, many relationships since I was, 13 years old up until 8.5 years ago. So my early 40s, I have found that joy and fulfillment come way more from something that you are doing with your life that is in alignment with who you truly are, your purpose. When you have direction for you, and of course you can do that within a relationship,
Mm.
but when you have found that thing, that meaning that has to come from you, my God, it's more satisfying than any relationship. Like,
Mm,
no offense, but
mm. No, absolutely. And Harry, that's your message.
yeah.
Sorry, Lucy,
No,
that's
not at all. I honestly,
absolutely
you have to shut me
aligned.
up, otherwise I just don't shut up.
No, no, it's fantastic because, but Harry, that is where you always want everybody who's going through the pain of breakup to begin, isn't it? That, as Lucy said, you have got to do it yourself. You've got to. No one else is going to fill the gap that you're feeling within. That's got to be you. And
Yeah.
so, Lucy, that's a really. And I'm sorry if you've answered all this, but picking up on something you said that you are the you think the best version of yourself as a single woman, and you've got
Yeah.
your focus now on your direction, on your path. So, and you've been doing this for 8.5 years, did you say? This
Well, I've
singledom
been single. No, I've been single for 8.5 years. I've had my podcast for just over, well, in fact, it's the 18th of March. On the 22nd of February, it was 4 years old. So just over 4 years old.
Yeah.
So I never intended to build a career out of being single and child free at all. It
Mm,
just kind of
mm,
happened. But that
mm,
part of my life has been for, yeah, the last just over 4 years, whenever I started kind of prepping to launch the podcast. So 4.5 years
mm.
ago.
So, do you feel now then, and again, apologies if you might have already had this conversation,
No,
Harry,
no,
with
don't
your,
worry
with
at
it,
all.
do you
Don't
feel
mind me.
now then that, no, don't worry about you. I'm really
Exactly. We
interested in
don't
this.
worry about him.
absolutely.
Do you feel that, because you've also just said you sort of, when you're in a relationship, you're laser focused on the relationship. Do you feel now, were you to decide to go into a relationship, do you feel that you would have now maintained that self and that purpose and your pathway, or do you feel that even now, with all the work you do, all of the focus that you've had and the stuff you do, do you feel now that you would be unwavering from that path, or do you still feel like that would rock you, or is your path such that that's just not a thing that's going to happen for you, that you don't want to do that?
I feel, oh gosh, there are sort of various bits to this. Firstly, the last thing you said, I talk about being open to a relationship, i.e., not
Mm,
completely closed down to the thought of a relationship ever happening again. Because as I said earlier, I've had many relationships, and there is a part of me that thinks, well, of course I'm going to get into a relationship at some point down the line. But
mm,
but to add to that, if I don't, clearly not a problem. I love being
mm,
single.
Yeah.
But in answer to the main bit of your question, I really worry that were I to get into another relationship, that I would lose myself again, despite
mm.
all the, quote, inner work I've done over the last 5 or 6 years. Because this journey that I've been on, albeit the podcast didn't start till 4 years ago, but this kind of journey, I call it a spiritual awakening, that started about 5 or 6 years ago. And I've had this conversation. Actually, I think even Harry and I had it in our conversation for my codpast. I
Yeah.
always say
Fishy.
codpast by mistake. It's really annoying.
That's quite cool. I quite like it.
In many ways it's
Podcast.
better, yeah.
Podcast, yeah. So I've had it. I think I had the conversation with Harry, but I've definitely had it with other people. I've sort of admitted that there is a part of me, and I've actually I have a membership for single women too called Thrive Solo, and we have talked about this in here, and I've admitted to the girls in there, like, it scares me that I would
Yeah.
lose myself again, and I absolutely believe, or I think I can tell you this without much doubt whatsoever, is that what I am doing with my life, if I was to fall in love again and end up in a relationship, I just know that my focus would not be fully on what I'm doing. And I don't think that means I suppose maybe that does mean I'm resistant to relationships, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing.
No.
Because if, does that, I don't know if I've
feel
answered your question.
absolutely, no, that's absolutely, no, you have answered my question, and I think what that does beautifully is highlight the fact that, as we always say, it's always an ongoing process, and it's always it sort of feels like, with anything, so you talk a lot about you've got amazing discipline with your morning routine and all that kind of stuff, but it slips. It slips. I've listened
Hell
to
yeah.
your yeah,
My
and it's the
recent
same with
mini-sode.
all of this work, isn't it? It's the same with all, you have to keep revisiting it. You have
Oh
to
my
keep
God.
going, "Oh,
Yeah.
I've let that boundary out a little bit too much." So, I think it's really important, again, Harry, for the people that, like you said, your core listeners are people who are in a lot of pain at the moment, a lot of emotional post-breakup pain. And I don't think it's realistic for anybody, even though, I mean, Lucy, you are incredibly together. You've just said, I'd have to keep working on it. I'd have to keep working on it, and it might even go to, pot if I was to meet
Well
someone
done.
else.
Well done. Very good.
Thank you very much, Harry. So that is fantastic. And I
So
think also, sorry, go on, Harry, you carry on now, because this is,
I
yeah.
think the main kind of alliance here, which I find really interesting, the bit that really appealed to me, the reason actually that I immediately said yes to going on Lucy's podcast, is that we're effectively coming towards the same destination from different angles, right?
Mm.
So the
Mhm.
idea being that when people ask the question, which they do a lot, how will I know when I'm healed? Right. And Lucy, you very openly and very vulnerably said last time, I don't know. I don't know if I'm healed, because I could go into a relationship and lose myself, or whatever it is, what we've just spoken about. But the standard answer that I tend to give to people who ask the question, when will I know if I'm healed, is, well, it's when a relationship isn't centered for you. It's
Yeah.
when somebody else isn't something that you're going to outsource your happiness, your emotional life, your emotional regulation, but also your entire sense of purpose to. Because people who are in deep emotional pain, who are more anxious, who come from emotionally unhealthy attachments, where they've been attached to somebody And let's be honest, it's mostly women because my channel is mostly women, but they attach to a man who's more avoidant or more emotionally unavailable. And then there is this sense of they cannot wait to lose themselves. They can't wait to offload the emotional responsibility that they should be carrying onto somebody else and then just kind of hope and wait. And then, of course, when the breakup happens, it's devastating and they lose their sense of identity. And just before I finish this point, I wanted to make there's a tiny little subtle difference in what Lucy you just described, which is beautiful. And it is fearful avoidance and independence. There is a very fine line between the two. And I think in all of your work, there's always going to be, and, you mentioned trolls on your page and stuff. There's always going to be this kind of position of, oh, this is just a defensive reaction because you found yourself in this situation. And so this isn't really a choice. This is you pushing back. The way that you described your kind of anxiety about going into a new relationship or finding love again and losing your sense of self was very reminiscent of the description of a fearfully avoidant person. And that's not a criticism, by the way.
I don't take it as one. I find it interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's and everybody who comes out of a very toxic relationship, even very anxious, especially very anxious people who come out of a more toxic relationship, go through a period of fearful avoidance.
Right.
But that's usually quite brief. It's usually something that once you do recover your confidence a bit, your sense of self and your kind of emotional core, you kind of step through that and move on. I imagine, and who am I to make assumptions about your amazing emotional health, but I imagine you stepped through that a long time ago, but because you have this beautiful depth of confidence in your identity, you haven't needed to test it. And now it's at the point where mine is effectively, which is, well, I don't need another person to test my own confidence. So why the hell would I? And that's a very different thing to fearful avoidance. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, I like that.
I love that. And do you know what I will just say to that is that, and I want to make this really clear, and I try and make it clear on my podcast too, is that I have not been single for 8.5 years because I'm scared of a relationship.
Yeah.
I've been single for 8.5 years because I bloody love being single. And because, as I said earlier, I feel like I'm a better version of myself. And to be quite honest with you, getting into another romantic relationship would be a huge, I cannot stress that enough, huge in caps lock sacrifice for me. And to be quite frank, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
It's exactly the point.
Exactly the point. So, Lucy, what do you find yourself, I suppose less now, because obviously you know where you are, but in our first season, series, we still don't know what we're saying. We had a woman Eliza wrote in, completely sorted, loved her life, great career, got her home, but was happy. But so much pressure as she was kind of growing up, getting older, from family members, from friends. The mother especially, and showing her photos of someone else's grandchildren. I do feel that is still, even subliminally, it is there everywhere for even
It's bordering
our
on,
generation.
it's bordering on
everywhere.
cruel, isn't it? It's bordering on
everywhere.
kind
Yeah,
of
but the thing
emotional
is,
abuse.
it is cruel if you're a person who wants all of that stuff. But even if you're a person who's totally happy, you're always having to question, hang on, is there quote unquote something wrong with me? It's all of that stuff.
God,
we always have to justify choosing ourselves. Every day we have to justify choosing ourselves. Do you agree with that, Lucy?
Oh my God. I mean, this is like another of my, this runs through the center of everything that I talk about on a regular basis. The narrative is, the societal narrative around single women and how they have been, how they are the unchosen ones, the miserable, sad, lonely cat ladies, it is woven literally into the fabric of our society. It is literally in our DNA. I mean, I say that because even I, as someone who is genuinely very happy single and without kids, even I will still fall prey to, oh, that couple who got married. You know, I'll see them and then I'll be like,
Yeah.
"What do you think you're going to have a baby?" And then I'm like, "Oh my god, why did that just come out of my mouth?" You know what I mean? But the point is that even someone like me who talks 24/7 about, you know, wanging on about how great being single and not having kids is,
Yeah.
even I still fall prey to not only projecting that onto other people, but also the other side of that, which is that I still feel that underlying shame sometimes. And despite the fact that I'm really confident in who I am and what I'm about, and I know myself, I still, like, I'll give you a couple of examples. I turned 50 on January the 1st. So
Yeah.
like a lot of people I know, you know, some of my really, really good friends we're all turning 50 this year. Sadly, I'm the first.
What an awful and terrible birthday. January the
Oh my God. Well,
1st.
It's
do you know what
awful.
though? It's the thing is, January the 1st is actually, it has been the best birthday in some ways, and it's been the worst in other ways. Like, I've had such fabulous birthdays because it's New Year, because I never celebrate it on the 1st. I
Right.
celebrate it when I've had parties over the years. They've always been New Year's Eve parties, because
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
of course.
it turns to midnight and it's like, happy birthday. So which is awesome, because the whole world is
Yeah.
celebrating my birthday.
Yeah.
But there's also the part of it that's like, well, you know, there's an expectation. And I tell you something, when I turned 40, oh God, Freudian slip, when I turned 50 on January the 1st, you know, it really, sometimes the January the 1st birthday can feel hard because it feels like a double whammy. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not only the start of a new year and there's the pressure of that. It's also like, oh my God, it's my birthday. And when I turned 50, yeah, that was a whole thing. Not to say, by the way, that I'm not really happy about it. I feel better now than I ever have. But you know, that's a different conversation. And in fact, I've completely forgotten where I was going with this. What were we saying?
It was about
Oh, 50th birthdays.
projecting.
Yes, 50th
Yeah,
birthday
yeah.
parties. Yeah. So I've been to 2 50th birthday parties really recently, and I've seen people who I haven't seen for a long time. And I felt that shame coming up, because you can see the look in people's eyes, the doubt. They're like, is she really happy? Is this just all for show? She can't
Yeah.
really be. Surely not. Surely there must be a part of her that regrets it and wishes that she was married with kids and all of that. It is so, I just could talk about this all day long, because it pains me so much, because what it does is it drives particularly women into relationships that are not enough for them, are not right for them, are not good enough for them,
100%.
and do not add value to their lives. And going back to the mum thing, I've always thought that pressure from parents, especially, by the way, when actually, yes, the single thing as well, but even worse than that is the kind of, you know,
The
if you get
babies.
pressure, the baby thing, when a parent makes a child feel guilty or pressures
Appalling, isn't
a
it?
child, it is absolutely, it's beyond, to me, it's unacceptable, and I cannot
Yeah.
believe it still goes on, but it goes on a
Oh,
lot.
it does. And I hope, but I'm not convinced, I hope that with our generation that will stop. But I don't think it will. Harry, I really want to ask here, I bet you never get that, do you? I bet you never get
So it's interesting. My closest friend, Claire, who I've known for about 20 years now, and who actually was the foundation for me building a lot of newfound emotional stability, I'd say, because provides me basically with a lot of companionship, essentially. So, and I love that. And I bet that's really significant in your life, Lucy, as well. But for me, the kind of the way that I see this pressure is always secondhand from a woman. It's always Claire saying, oh, my friend said again today something really cutting. And I'll say, well, what was it? And it'll be something like, oh, well, you wouldn't understand because you don't have kids. And it's so hurtful. It's such a hurtful thing to say to somebody, because it's predicated on this idea that it goes back to what we said at the beginning, you know, that this wasn't a choice. that this was
Yeah.
something that some awful barren wasteland that you ended up in that wasn't your choice, and now you're sitting in it pretending that you're comfortable and
Okay with
fine
it. Yeah,
when
exactly.
underneath you mustn't be. But
You
that's the other
can't possibly be.
person's insecurity. That's the other person's own stuff being projected onto you. And most of the really honest conversations that you have with people who are more secure, who have kids, involve, oh, don't have kids, it's bloody awful.
Christ, why
That's
would
hell.
you? Yeah,
100%.
exactly. Yeah. But I do
100%.
want to press you. I do want to press you,
Me?
Harry. Because,
Oh,
yeah,
go on. Press me.
because I want to say to you, I bet you haven't ever had anyone say, well, when are you, you
I
might have
haven't
had
had
that as a
that
throwaway comment.
well, I have had it a little, but certainly nowhere near the level that I'd have it if I was a woman. But also, I have been undermined a lot in relationships because my relationships have usually been with mums, right? With people who've got kids.
Hmm.
And I often found myself, because I idolized my own mum, right? So that was kind of my lovely kind of benchmark. So I would always choose women who were very sort of cruel, adorable and cruel, but also very independent, very together in terms of running a life. A mess in every other way, essentially, but very together in running a life. And so the conversations with those people, when things got fraught, tended to end up in, yeah, but you don't have kids, so you don't know. Like, your life's not hard. You don't have kids. You're not tired. You don't have kids. You don't. The reason you're disorganized is because you don't have kids. And there's a lot of truth in it. There's a lot of truth in the fact that if I were a father, I'd have to be more organized, of course.
Don't
And
say that, because I'm a
there
mother
is,
and I'm horrific. And so, yeah,
but
preconceived crap, isn't it?
but in terms of the kind of when are you going to have kids, that is just for women. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
it is,
that's only
isn't it?
reserved for
Yeah.
women.
It's-
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
The one good thing about
sad
being a
projection.
woman is that it at least it does stop when you are clearly, like now for me. I mean, no one would ask me that because I'm 50. So you know what I mean. So there is a kind of a lid on it. Whereas
Mhm. Yeah,
for
I
guys,
guess.
obviously,
Yeah.
was it Charlie Chaplin who had like kids when he was like
Yeah.
80?
84,
Al
I think.
Pacino has a very.
I-
Al
I-
Pacino's
one
just
of-
had a baby, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And also one
Yeah.
of the really old craggy one in the Rolling Stones. Sorry.
The really old
More,
craggy.
Keith,
Keith Richards. Yeah, he's got
has
twins.
he?
Unbelievable.
Really?
Anyway, yeah, that's nuts.
Anywho.
And if we think about successful, well-known women, if you think about, as an example, Jennifer Aniston, how much time has that woman had to spend defending the fact that she is not a mother? And I find that absolutely abhorrent. It's
Yeah, me
nobody's
too.
business. We're not sitting asking Ryan Reynolds or anybody about his parental status. Why is Leonardo DiCaprio not kids? No one's ever asking that.
I tell you what really grabbed me on your account, actually, Lucy, was recently you made a reel about singledom not being celebrated. And this isn't single womandom,
yeah.
this is just single. And it really did, it was quite arresting because in a world where we're ready to kind of say, okay, Lucy says that she's very happy single. Okay, I can get on board with that. I could be very happy single. But then to take it to the next level and say, can you not just like have a party because you're single? Can you not say that you're single and celebrate that? Can you not actually revel in singledom? I think that's so lovely because it's so confronting for these dull old societal norms, but also because it just
Well, it just proves that when you actually really think about it, the big celebrations in life are to do with romantic love.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like they're just, or those two, things like obviously weddings and christenings and, all of those things that, quote, most people go through, they are centered around romantic love. And it's just, the thing is, it just reinforces the narrative that being single and not having kids is somehow a lesser path, which is another thing that I try so hard with my content, with my podcast, in my membership to break down that story. Because the thing is, it is a story. And, this is another thing I try and help single women realize is that a lot, because I personally think that, sorry, I'm going off on a slight tangent, but I personally think that often when single people, single women, single men, whoever, feel a bit about their relationship status, I think the vast majority of it isn't even coming from something internal in
Yeah.
themselves. It's
Yeah.
coming from the expectation and the assumptions and the narrative and the comments and
Yeah.
the constant sort of invasive questions, intrusive questions about when are you going to settle down? And it's just this constant reinforcement that being single is somehow less. I think
Yeah.
if you actually if you, let's just say we wiped out that, right? Let's just say that being single was equally normal, quote, normal, as being in a relationship and having kids. If none of that was part of this, I bet you so many more people would be
They would.
more than happy to remain single,
Of course they would.
And when you think
Of
about it
course
like
they
that,
would. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Because I think, and in my own personal friendship group and family groups, I think about the people that have hopped from one terrible relationship to another,
Oh my God,
almost
no.
in this, like musical chairs, and you're running and you've got to
Oh
sit on a
God.
chair. It's like that, but
It blows
it's
my
much
brain.
more difficult. Yeah,
And
but
those aren't good chairs.
those aren't good
No.
chairs. But I want to go all the way back to something you said at the beginning, Lucy, because you said in your group of your community, you have women who are sort of moving towards relationship breakups, and that really resonated. And I think that's interesting. Do you feel that people can? Because I feel like I did this. I feel like there was, and it was quite a long period of time in my marriage at the end, where I almost prepared myself for
Mm,
singledom. And again, I'm using this awful clunky language, bearing in mind everything we've just talked about, and accepting it. Do you see what I mean? Accepting it as if it was a failing of some
yeah.
sort, but going through all of that rubbish and going, yes, I'm going to be okay with being single. And I'd gone all the way in the future, done all of
Mm,
that, and then I felt the strength to leave my marriage. So I feel like in some ways I'd done half the work. I didn't, I came out of it and I lived by myself and I was prepared and I was happy with all of those things. Do you feel that's something that you can do, or at least start to do? And is it a sort of an acceptable way to move towards the end of a relationship, do you think?
what do you mean? Sorry, when
Sort of
is what?
sort of to start doing the work of kind of
Oh, I see.
trying
Sort of
on being
preparing for it, you
single.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, yeah. I think that what's really interesting is when I found out that I had more listeners than I realized who were actually in relationships. What it
Mm.
basically says to me is that something about my message is resonating, even with people in
Mm.
relationships. You know,
Yes.
but I think it's because it's a universal truth that we do not, that happiness does have to come from within. So I think when you hear like a truth with a capital T, it resonates for that reason, because it
Mm.
is a truth. And I like to think that I love to think that there are women in relationships listening to my podcast, women in not good relationships that they want to leave, who listen to my podcast as a way of preparing themselves for single life. Because I think so often the reason, I think we all know this, so often the reason that people stay for way longer than they should, and perhaps sometimes even forever, is
Yeah.
because we've been led to believe that being single is a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
So we hang on in relationships because we think, well, at least it's better than being single. And even if you're
Yeah.
in a miserable, toxic, abusive, awful relationship, sometimes being single can feel even worse than that. So I think what my podcast, my message does is it makes people reframe singlehood and start
Mm.
going, oh my God, I cannot
Mhm.
tell you how many emails and messages I've had from people going, like, seriously, and saying, thank you so much. You have completely transformed the way that I think about my single life.
Yes.
Mm.
So from people who are, who have gone from feeling like they hated being single, to actually going, actually, do you know what? Because ultimately, this is another thing I'm obsessed with and I'm so passionate about and talk about all the time, is mindset. Life is, the way that we live our life is largely about our mindsets. And because ultimately it's about the lens through which we are looking. You can have two people living, with exactly the same circumstances. One is happy and rocking it, and the other is absolutely miserable and being a victim. Well, the difference is not their circumstances. The difference is the lens through which they are looking at their lives. So what I say all the time about single life is, you may, if you want, you can choose to sit in victimhood. And I know that can be quite triggering, but I think
No, I
some
agree
people
with
do,
that.
not everybody, but you can choose that, or you can choose, because it does come down to a choice. You can choose to start seeing it in a different way, and that is going to shift your
Yeah,
experience of reality. You know what I mean?
that's
I don't think I answered
fantastic.
your question
Yeah,
at all there. I'm so
absolutely.
I've
sorry.
Yeah,
got
yeah,
I've
yeah.
got a two-parter. Are you ready for that? Brace yourselves. So the first part is, because I was really interested when you were talking about friends and their expectations of you and family's expectations. Or have you lost friends because you've chosen to be single and because of what you're doing, which feels probably to somebody who's more anxious and relationship focused as a kind of terrorist assault on coupling? They probably feel very uncomfortable with that, I would imagine. Have you lost friends from that? That's part one.
I have shed certain friendships over the
Shed, I
last
like that.
several years,
Hmm.
some from my end, some from their end. But I think this speaks to two things. I think this speaks to, yes, the kind of, when someone is happily single and without children, I think it really holds a mirror up to people who are in unhappy relationships and who are maybe
Mm.
finding motherhood really
Oh,
difficult. But I also think it speaks to when you decide to upgrade your life, which is essentially the decision that I made 5 or 6 years ago. I went, "Do you know what? I'm just I should just quickly say that for a long, long time, I felt like this isn't enough. Like I
Mm.
did various jobs. I worked at Radio 2 for a long time. From the outside, it looked like an amazing job at Radio 2, like kind of glamorous and blah, 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 blah. And I did various things, but all the while I was still searching because I hadn't found it just didn't feel like it was enough for me. So
Yeah.
anyway, at the beginning of lockdown, I basically made a decision that I was going to take back control of my life. I was just like,
Mm.
I'm not sucking this up anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing this anymore. I am in control of my life. And I'm just not going to, it's that classic thing of, I remember, in fact, I remember having a conversation with my mum once and saying, but I want to do this and I want to do this. And she was like, but darling, everybody has to go to work and do it. And I'm like, I'm not saying I don't want to work, mum. I'm just saying that I don't want to go to work at a job that I effing hate for the next
Yeah.
however
yeah.
many years. Anyway, so coming back to the question, I think some of the friendships that have fallen over the wayside over the last few years have not only been about my single, or in some cases not even been about that. I think it's been more about the fact that I've changed.
Mm.
I've grown. I've evolved, and you realize, and this is something that I never ever ever realized, but I've subsequently heard so many people talking about this. And Harry, maybe you found this too. When you start up leveling your life and you start reaching for more and you start following your dreams, because we're only here once, what the hell are we doing? The people around you go, oh my God, this is making me feel really uncomfortable. I don't know what's happening to her.
Yes.
And oh, who does she think
Mm.
she is? So I
Well,
think there is an element of that as well.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that. I think, same when you go through a divorce, actually, you get what you said. People, I think people look away because they know they need to address something similar in themselves or their relationship, and they don't want to have to do that. Actually, also, I
Yeah,
don't think there's
absolutely.
always a sort of, gosh, you're a bit scary because you're doing things I don't understand. I think there's also, I ought to be doing that. I don't have the strength to do that, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
remove myself from that.
I think so much of what Lucy, what you describe in that answer as well, it's beautiful because it's basically this kind of, it leads me to the second part, but actually before I get to that, you describe emotional security accidentally, almost incidentally, as you describe a lifestyle that's chosen, that's leveling up and all that stuff. What you're actually describing, in my opinion anyway, is this deeply secure emotional core that doesn't need external validation to exist and to help you thrive. And that's kind of wonderful. And I remember when we did the podcast, and one of the questions that I read was, what does thriving solo mean to you? Directed at me. And I remember thinking, it's an interesting question for me, this, because I don't define solo and couple. I never talk about it. Because for me, it's kind of so incidental to happiness, in the same way that a relationship would be incidental to my happiness anyway. I have people in my life I deeply love, but those people don't define my happiness or sadness. I do.
Same.
And I find that really interesting. But my second part is, anxious attachment is essentially this belief that love is the feeling of anxiety that you will be abandoned if you do not try, if you don't earn the love, if you don't try for the love, and that the person that you're with and who is keeping you anxious and on edge all of the time is the person that you can't live without. So the question is, how much of romantic love, certainly in Western culture, how much of romantic love do you think is just a collective anxious attachment, where so many of us have been conditioned and trained to fear being single or abandoned, that actually we're just collectively desperately clinging on to what we've been told is security?
Yeah, a lot. In short.
Yeah. I was hoping for a bit more, Lucy, but
well,
I don't know. Imagine if she's just gone. I don't know.
No, it's fine. I like the velvet voice more.
Yeah, say whatever you like. We don't care.
Oh my God. Well, no, actually, I was gonna add something that I did a reel about yesterday when your podcast episode went out on my podcast, about how you and I talked, and I love this conversation because I just feel it so strongly that, we have been programmed, conditioned, whatever you want to call it, led to believe. We come out of the womb and we're basically handed a script that says, this is what you will do. You will go to school, you will grow up, you will meet a nice man or woman, and you will get married and you will buy a house and then you will have a baby and da 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 da. We've been handed this script, and the idea is that we stay with that person forever and ever and ever, amen, right? And also, this has also just made me randomly think about something that I wrote about in my book, which is that quote from Jerry Maguire, "You complete me," which has just done so many women a major, major disservice, because we're already complete, guys. Newsflash, spoiler alert. So yeah, I do think that, again, it's going back to what we were saying earlier on. It's coming from a narrative rather than what would actually, if you stripped all of the layers of the onion off and we're just left with the core of who we are as human beings, we wouldn't be thinking, but I meant to have a diamond ring on that finger. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's making any sense.
I find the fear of loneliness. So when I was younger, when I was anxious, I guess I had this inbuilt fear of loneliness. And I read something, I can't remember who it was. It was something pretentious, obviously, because it's me. I think it was Hemingway who said, you can view loneliness. Loneliness is either a blank page or an empty life. And I think it goes to what you said, about how what your mindset is and how you view stuff. But so often I have to describe to people who've come out of very long, very difficult relationships and then through awful betrayals and breakups, I have to say, well, you'll hate me for saying this, but this is a gift and you're not going to like it. It's going to be awful. It's a gift wrapped in razor wire. You don't want it, but you will get to a point when your hands stop bleeding and you look around at your life and think, cool, I am glad that happened to me. I am glad I found that loneliness, that I opened that book and found the blank page and started again. I think so it's not something, it's not as terrifying, I think, as we've been told.
Yeah. I mean,
Also,
God,
though,
I
and
love
we
talking
talk
about.
about this a lot, it's also we're scared of discomfort of any sort, but emotional discomfort most of all. You know, we seem to be labouring under the notion that we are entitled and should expect sort of stable joy, not just contentment, not just I feel all right today, tomorrow I might feel better. Yesterday I felt great. We are expecting or feel like we should be entitled to 24/7 unfettered joy at all times. And so I
Yeah.
think we kind of, if there is anything that wobbles that, oh my gosh, I might feel a bit sad for 3 months, we just can't even face
Yeah.
that as a
Yeah.
notion.
Yeah.
So
And
A
that's
true.
lot
ridiculous, isn't it?
A lot
Really?
of the response to people in heartbreak is, yeah, of course.
It's
When they
going to
say,
hurt.
it's really bloody hurts. I hate it. I hate it. Yeah, of course you do. This is one
Mm,
thing in life you can't solve with Deliveroo. This is one thing in life you can't bypass. You're going to have to go through this.
yeah.
And you can go through it healthily and heal from it. But that hurts like hell as well. There's no swerving around this pain. You have to go through it. And
Yeah.
I think the predication that relationship security is the answer to loneliness, or somehow the
Mm,
antidote to loneliness, is odd, because
absolute
I
nonsense. Yeah.
speak to people in relationships who are desperately more lonely than
Yeah.
I ever
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, I agree with
100%.
that. I think that's even
It's
worse because you feel like again, all of this is in quotes, you're in a relationship, so you should, quote unquote, be feeling happy and comforted and supported and loved and part of something. And it's worse when it just feels worse because it's not there if it's not there.
Hmm. Do you? So my last little. These are just curiosity questions. I'm so interested in this mostly because actually I think our life principles, Lucy, are very similar, and I think that
Mm.
the difference is our gender. Right. I think
Mm.
that's the difference. I think that's the different things that come at you. I think it's the different things you have to either bat away or absorb or
Mm.
whatever it is. So my question is, so I have a lot of couple friends, right? So a lot of my friends are couples, and I'm always the guy on the end, and I like that. I quite like, I mean, I like attention, right? I'm a Leo, whatever. But
that explains it.
yeah, it does. People say that so often. I've never looked it up. But do you find that couples feel uncomfortable with the kind of dinner party scenarios? Because I've had that quite a lot, where they say, "Oh yeah, we didn't invite you because you're on your own," and it's mostly Mike and Sue and Bill and Rita and blah blah. Listen to my
Yeah,
80s names, but you know what I mean.
I think definitely there is an element of that for sure. I mean, I know that I've been not invited to things because I'm single. Like I
Mm,
know for a fact that I haven't been invited to certain things over the
yeah.
years because since like when I've been single. And again, I think it's it's very easy to take offense to that and kind of be like, oh God, what's wrong with me? But actually, it's not about you. It's about
Mm,
them. It's
yeah.
not about what they think of
Mm.
you or that you're some kind of weirdo loser. It's the fact that it makes them feel uncomfortable because
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when you are swimming against the tide, it makes other people feel uncomfortable. And maybe it does take a certain type of person. Like, I don't know, sometimes I think, oh God, I'm trying to make everyone feel like, that being single is great. And maybe for some people it just never is. And maybe
Mm.
I'm
Mm,
just that kind of personality. I don't know. But there is no doubt that when you are doing anything that is going against the grain, it makes the people who are just following them, who are on the frickin' treadmill, it makes
Mm.
them very nervous and it makes them very
yeah.
Mm.
uncomfortable. And it's really frustrating. And, that's why it can be so incredibly difficult to be single because it's
Yeah.
really hard to walk through life and be, have people constantly sort of looking at you a bit like, oh, I don't know about her. I actually quite love it in a way because I just
Yeah.
think it's so much more interesting to be different. I don't want to be the same as everybody else. I think that's so dull. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think in a kind of the life I've lived has always been a little bit against the grain in that. I mean, I'm from Newcastle. My friends were mostly like a lot of welders, a lot of proper men. You'd describe them as, men who work night shift. My friend retired recently. He's worked night shift for 50 years in factories in Newcastle. And I've gone more Geordie as I describe it, right? And then I've moved down south early and wear a lot of yellow socks, and it doesn't fit, right? It doesn't fit with the kind of standard. I don't like football. I don't like groups of men, all that stuff. And so I definitely get a lot of enjoyment from swimming against the tide. I definitely do that as kind of as a comfortable performance for myself. I don't miss any of those. I don't want any of those things, but I enjoy not having them. So I find that really interesting. Lucy, tell us all about where we can find you, where my followers can go and become desperately happily single, please, and about your community, about your podcast and everything else. That would be lovely.
Oh, thank you. So first and foremost, I guess, is my podcast, which is called Thrive Solo, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. And as I say, it's been going for 4 years, so there are a lot, because I do 3 episodes a week. So there are a lot of episodes, guest episodes, mini-sodes. Yes, so that's the first thing. And then I also have a book out. If you're in the UK, it's called Shiny Happy Singles. And if you're in the US or Canada, it's called Thrive Solo. And I also have a membership for single women also called Thrive Solo. The reason, by the way, some people are like, but why is your book called 2 different names? The reason is because actually my UK publisher, before I changed the name of my podcast from Spinsterhood Reimagined to Thrive Solo, they knew that they didn't want to use Spinsterhood Reimagined as a title for my book. So we'd come up with Shiny Happy Singles, which I actually absolutely love. Because I'm a big music fan, and obviously it's inspired by the R.E.M. song. But anyway, and then I have a different publisher in North America, Hay House, who wanted to go with Thrive Solo rather than Shiny Happy Singles. Anyway, that's
fair enough.
But I have a membership for single women also called Thrive Solo. And you can get on the waitlist for that by going to lucymegesson.com/waitlist. And my website's a bit crap, to be honest, but it's called lucymegesson.com. Check it out if you want. But the main thing actually is to come and follow me on Instagram. I'm at Thrive Solo with Lucy Megesson. So I would love it if you came and checked out my daily ramblings about single life.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That's great.
You're so welcome.
Emma, we've had a proper lady on, a proper grown up.
No, stop
and
it.
This is new for us. So
thanks. Yes. I know.
I do think it'd be interesting to do this sort of fairly regularly and have these conversations, because we are speaking essentially, I think, to the same people. And it's really nice actually to have a parallel but slightly different sort of view. It's really interesting. I find it fascinating anyway.
And
who knows what the listeners think?
So impressive. I like the fact that I'm the normal person. I'm the random. I'm the person that sort of chooses to take all this advice from people like yourself, Lucy and Harry, because I'm just a bit. So it's lovely. It's lovely to sort of listen, to have the opportunity to listen to people who are, really impressive. And not you.
You're very kind. Do you know, can I just say, by the way, you are so kind, because I swear to God, I don't think I answered any of your questions. I think I went off on complete tangent.
I just assumed you were some sort of politician. I think it's fine.
I do that all the time, off on a load of tangents.
Can I just
my
say
brain
one
just
thing?
goes.
Please, can people go and look for you've done a cheat sheet, haven't you, of how to answer some of these? You're married yet?
Yes.
You've done one of those.
I have.
And that's on your website, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a freebie. It's just like a PDF. If you go to lucymegesson.com/comebacks. So it's basically the top 10 comebacks for 10 of the most irritating questions that single people get asked.
Is it just F off 12 times?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But the other freebie, actually, if I can just say, because I think this one is this one I feel really passionate about. It's my top 10 mindset tips, which I live by myself. And I think, there are 10 practices that I try and use in my life on a regular basis. And if you add these into your life, you're going to feel better. And you can just go to them, but you can get them for free as well by just going to lucymegesson.com/mindset. So yeah.
Brilliant.
We'll put a link in that. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Lucy, for coming on. And
you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
educating Emma. Thanks. We've got to keep. We're trying to keep her moving through life. You know, she's a stubborn one, but we're getting there.
I'm not
aren't
really
we, Emma?
swimming. I'm being sort of dragged along, aren't I, by you? Like a rubber ring, dragging me
like an
along.
angry tadpole.
Yes.
There's an
Furious
image.
tadpole.
Anyway, so thank you again.
Thanks so
Thank
much for having
you.
me. You're welcome.
We hope you're enjoying the stories on Where You Left Them, the Dad Hugs podcast. But how's your emotional health? At Dad Hugs, we help thousands of people to solve their emotional challenges now and lead more fulfilling lives in their future relationships. Check out the No Contact Pack. It's brutal, but it works, and it'll help you break the cycle and rebuild after a relationship breakdown. Or the Healing Anxious Attachment Pack, a deep reset for anxious attachers which will help you calm the fear of abandonment, stop the spiral of overthinking, and feel secure in yourself. Find our packs and see what hundreds of other happy users have said at dadhugsforyoursoul.com/packs.
So that was the wonderful Lucy, who gives us a really interesting perspective on healing and on singledom, and how the two go hand in hand quite a lot, and how the destination of healing isn't relationships. It's not someone else. And the safest place for your emotional well-being is never somebody else. And I think she exudes this brilliant kind of self-confidence. Would you agree, Emma?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's wonderful to just listen to her and look at her and watch her and see how accomplished she is. And she's really impressive.
Bit
What?
creepy, but yeah.
Well,
And look
I
at her.
know, but you know what
You've
I'm
got
like.
to stop looking at people.
I can't stop looking at them. I love them. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm going to go and get the mindset tips that she talked about. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm going to add that to my little stable of things, because last week we talked to, or was it the week before? We talked to Brittany, who also makes me feel.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I keep thinking on something she said, which was you've got to let go of stuff to let the good stuff in. So little
Very
things
true.
really stick with me, and I'm going to keep using that, and I'm going to go and have a look at Lucy's 10 mindset tips and see what I can take on there as well.
Fantastic. And so, Emma, where are we in the podcast season?
Oh, right. Okay. You had to bring that up. Yes.
Yes.
Because
Yes,
last week I wanged on about it being the last before we had a break, because I thought it was number 10 last week, but it was number 9 last week, Harry. But it definitely, truly, actually, really, real life is number 10 today.
So it's time for a break.
Time for a break, my love. Yes.
Okay, that's nice. I'll have a sleep at some point. That's lovely. I look forward to it. So we're gone for 2 weeks.
Okay, lovely. Right.
And Emma's hearing this first as well, by the way, because of my unique organisational method. But yeah, I think 2 weeks is about right, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's more than sufficient, Harry.
And it'll give you time to catch up with all the episodes you've missed, and to follow and like all the reels and all that stuff, and go and look for Lucy and look for Brittany. And Brittany's running a retreat as well, so that's worth looking for. So, and we have quite a lot of people now. We're well over halfway to the in-person event being sold out. So if you are considering that, if you've been sitting on it, now's the time. And I'm not just saying that. I don't want people to try and book and find out that it's gone, because we're limiting it to just 20 places. So that's all very exciting, isn't it?
It's super exciting. I can't wait for that. I really can't wait for it. So it's very exciting. And I'm also looking forward to a break from you. Not from you, Harry.
Absolutely,
you know I love you very much.
Offensively unnecessary and an attack on my character.
No, we will no doubt speak relentlessly as always, but hopefully
I'm looking for a break from me too, Emma. I've got me in headphones today through a great big fancy influencer mic. It's not nice hearing yourself all the time.
Isn't it? Come on.
It really is.
Of course it is. I was going to say, briefly, there was a little bit of self-doubt.
No, there wasn't. No. Anyway, so for this week, I think we're done.
Yes.
We're not going to, what we're going to do is assemble a load of new viewer questions, listener questions, and we're going to assemble a new guest.
Oh.
And I don't mean assemble a new guest, do I? Because that would be Frankensteinian.
Yeah,
we're going to...
creepy for looking at them. You're actually building them.
Yeah, I've got some in my garage.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to find a new guest, or speak to a new guest that we're already talking to and get them on as well. Because
Right.
I think it's about time we grew up a bit, right? And started dealing with actual adults. Can you imagine it?
I feel so inadequate all the time. So this is good, really, because I can go and do my breathing and all the other stuff and meditate and walk
You
in
are
nature.
valuable. You are
Shout
valuable.
at the sky, look at myself in the eyes in the mirror and all that stuff. It's good.
Brilliant. I'm glad. I want you in the packs for the next 2 weeks, solid. But
Yes,
for this
I'm
week, I think we have to say goodbye. So thank
Yeah.
you very much for coming along. I hope you found a lot of usefulness in the interview with Lucy. And also,
Oh,
I hope you go and look at those resources in the podcast notes. They really are useful. And her book, I haven't read it yet, but I've ordered it. It looks great. So I really recommend that you have a look at what Lucy's got to offer. It's a really interesting perspective of someone who is, as she said in her own words, is swimming against the tide a
Yes.
bit. And yeah, it's fascinating. So for this week, I have to say the thing, don't I?
Go and say the thing, Harry.
Which is, if you're wondering where your ex is and what they're up to, they are exactly where you left them. And they're doing exactly what they were doing. Big hug.